A cold-blooded Christmas in Aloud, a small, peaceful town nestled at the foot of the Colorado mountains. On Christmas of 1996, snow blanketed the rooftops. Twinkling lights adorned windows and doorsteps. People prayed for peace, for hope, for children to sleep safely in their families' arms. But at 755 15th Street, one child would never wake up again. At 5:52 a.m. on December 26th, Boulder police received a phone call from Patsy Ramsey, a frantic woman reporting that her 6-year-old daughter had gone missing. The little girl's name was JonBenét, blonde hair, blue eyes, a radiant smile like an angel's. Patsy said she had found a bizarre 3-page ransom note placed on the stairs. The content was almost unbelievable, the kidnapper demanded. $118,000, a number that exactly matched the bonus her husband had just received from his company. Police arrived at the upscale house. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no noise in the night, no footprints in the snow outside. Everything was too quiet, too clean, too strange. Officers searched the rooms and checked the windows, but there was one door left, unchecked, a small wooden door in the basement. It was locked, pitch black. No one entered, not until 1 p.m. when John Ramsey, the father, suddenly went straight down to the basement. No one told him to, no one followed. He went alone, and then he opened the door. Inside was the body of JonBenét. She lay beneath a white blanket, her hands bound, her mouth covered with duct tape, a deep wound on her head, and a garrote made from a paintbrush handle tightened around her neck. The room held no breath, no blood spilled, only silence and something not of this world. John Ramsey carried his daughter's body upstairs, but he didn't call a doctor, he didn't scream, he didn't collapse. He laid her down in the living room in full view of everyone present, and in that moment, evidence began to vanish, little by little, as if someone wanted the truth to be buried in darkness. As the body was taken from the house, Christmas lights still flickered on the eaves. But that night, all of America grew a little colder, not from the snow, but from a quiet fear seeping into every home. The house at 755 15th Street stood in a quiet, affluent neighborhood. White walls, black roof tiles, a Christmas tree placed by the large window, where the holiday lights would cast their glow upon JonBenét's face each evening like a fairy tale painting. But in every photo of that little girl, behind the blue eyes and flawless smile, there was always something too perfect to be real. The Ramseys were the ideal American family. The father, a tech executive. The mother, a former beauty, queen of West Virginia. They were wealthy, well-known, and seemingly had it all. And JonBenét, their beloved daughter, was the shining jewel beneath the stage lights. Every child beauty pageant was another chance to dress her up, apply makeup, and pose like an adult, all under her mother's glowing, prideful gaze. But some said, JonBenét's eyes were not happy. In certain home videos, she turned her face away mid-sentence, or pressed her lips together as if hiding something. Once, when asked what her Christmas wish was, she whispered so softly that no one could make out the words. Later, an investigator remarked, "I've watched dozens of her videos, and in one moment, I saw it clearly. The eyes of someone crying for help on the night of December 25th, 1996. The Ramseys returned home after a Christmas party at a friend's house. The house went dark around 9:30 p.m. JonBenét was carried upstairs by her mother and tucked into bed, or so Patsy told the police. But from that moment on, no one truly knows what happened. In the official report, a neighbor testified that they heard a piercing scream around midnight, then silence, no footsteps, no running, no one left the house. Strangely, not a single member of the Ramsey family reported hearing it. Some believe that if JonBenét did cry out, it wasn't meant for human ears. It was a cry sent into the void, a whisper meant for something that only the dead could hear that same night. A small basement window, the very room where her body was later found, was discovered wide open. Cobwebs still intact. No footprints in the snow, no wind. No logical reason for it to be open at all. Patsy claimed she woke early to prepare for a trip. But as she descended the stairs, she froze, lying on the steps just beneath the wooden cross on the wall was the ransom note. Someone had placed it there, yet no one had heard a sound the entire night. People still whisper about that house, how some rooms always feel colder than others, especially the basement, and how a child, once America's little star, was led down there in silence, perhaps with a gentle, coaxing voice, or maybe by a calling only she could hear. And so Christmas morning passed under a blanket of white snow. The door stood open, but no one stepped in. The Christmas lights shone, but the little girl would never wake again. And somewhere within the brick walls of that basement, there remains a coldness, one that doesn't come from winter, but from a presence that has never left. When Boulder police stepped into the mansion at 755 15th Street on the early morning of December 26th, they didn't walk into the scene of a kidnapping. They walked into a house sealed off from reason, a place where the truth slipped through. Every hand that tried to grasp it. Outside, the air was cold. Snow still lay untouched, but inside, the floor was warm. The lights were still on, and strangely, there were absolutely no signs of forced entry. No broken doors, no shattered glass, not a single sound heard during the night. The first thing police saw was the 3-page ransom note, scribbled in a shaky hand but unusually long. The language was bizarre, as if copied from a cheap action movie. Follow our instructions exactly, or your daughter will be beheaded. Even more disturbing, the ransom demand was exactly $118,000, matching down to the dollar the Christmas bonus John Ramsey had just received from his company. Not $100,000, not $1 million, but the one number that would make the father stop cold. A coincidence so precise, it bordered on the absurd. People began to whisper, how could the kidnapper know that number? Or perhaps they didn't need to know because they weren't strangers. And yet, instead of sealing off the scene, immediately the police allowed a stream of people to come and go. Friends, neighbors, even a pastor was allowed inside. Someone poured coffee. Someone wiped down the floors. Someone cleaned the bathroom sink, a place where DNA or evidence might have lingered. Every trace, from footprints to fingerprints, slowly disappeared, as if an invisible hand was erasing it all when officers finally asked the family to search the house again. John Ramsey, the father, went straight to the basement. No hesitation. No one told him to. He didn't ask questions. He simply walked down and opened the heavy wooden door, damp and musty, and there lay the lifeless body of his daughter. There was one detail that chilled investigators to the bone. John didn't search the house randomly. He went directly to that room, a small windowless space, hidden behind 2 doors, a place no one would have thought of. Was it fatherly instinct, or was it ... memory? He picked up his daughter's body and brought her into the living room, destroying the crime scene. The garrote loosened. The duct tape on her mouth slipped off. The body was moved, altered, and from that moment on, the case would never align with any report again. From that moment, it began to spiral out of control. Patsy, the mother, changed her clothes that morning. No one could quite remember what she had worn the night before. The exact time JonBenét had gone to bed. No one could say for sure. Security cameras, none. Alarm system, turned off. Witnesses, none. Neighbors, heard nothing. A house of 6, yet only one scream was heard in the night. And then complete silence, as if the house itself had been locked away from reality. The Ramseys refused direct police interviews. They hired lawyers. They appeared on national television before speaking to investigators. Their son Burke, only 9 at the time, vanished from the media for months. Police were not allowed to speak to him alone, as if the boy no longer lived in that house since Christmas night. One veteran investigator later said, after leaving the case, there's something deeply wrong in that house. Every time I thought I had a lead, it vanished like smoke. I've never felt so powerless in my entire career. And in the end, no evidence, no suspect, no confession. Only a child, dead in a cold basement, and a family that slowly closed its doors, as if nothing ever happened. If you think a child's body found in the basement was the darkest part of this story, you're wrong. The truth, or rather, what's been called the truth, in the JonBenét Ramsey case, is a gateway, one that opens into multiple layers of reality, where every suspect carries a shadow no one can quite touch. The father, John Ramsey, he was the one who discovered the body, the only one who went directly to the exact door in the basement. No hesitation, no detour. Why? Did he know exactly where she was? Why did he lift her body and move it, instead of preserving the scene? And why did the ransom amount match down to the dollar? The bonus he had just received. Some say the look in John Ramsey's eyes that day wasn't that of a grieving father who had just found his murdered daughter. It was the look of a man who had just ended a nightmare, one whose ending he already knew. The mother, Patsy Ramsey. She was the one who called 911, the one who found the note. A former beauty queen, proud, perfect, unshaken, but handwriting experts later found similarities between her script and the bizarre ransom letter. In media appearances, she was both devastated and theatrical. Her eyes wandered. Her voice trembled one moment and turned steely the next. One theory suggests she may have accidentally injured her daughter in a burst of rage, perhaps after JonBenét wet the bed or misbehaved during Christmas night. Then, to cover it up, she staged the entire scene. The bizarre letter, the disguised cause of death, a story that was never quite whole. The mother, once a pageant queen, had become the director of her daughter's final tragedy. The brother, Burke Ramsey, 9 years old, quiet, withdrawn. No one really knew what Burke was thinking, and no one understood why the Ramseys refused to let police interview him alone, not for months after JonBenét's death. Some believe Burke, in a moment of jealousy or anger, may have accidentally killed his sister, and the parents covered it up to protect the son they had left. An accident twisted into a tale of abduction and horror. Others say Burke was different. In interviews, years later, his strange expressions, the unblinking stare, the odd smiles, left millions of viewers disturbed. If you look closely into Burke's eyes in those videos, you might not sleep tonight. The outsider, the intruder in the dark. This theory was the one the Ramseys clung to for decades. That someone broke in through the basement window, kidnapped JonBenét and killed her. Indeed, a window was open, a footprint was found. Unidentified DNA was discovered, not matching anyone in the family, but ... The window wasn't broken. Cobwebs were undisturbed. No footprints in the snow. No camera captured a figure entering or leaving. People began to ask, was there ever a person inside the house? Or was it something else? ... Something that didn't need doors, didn't leave tracks, didn't care for witnesses, only death. And then there are the theories not meant for the faint of heart. A ritual sacrifice masked behind the glitz and glamour of child beauty pageants. A powerful pedophile ring where JonBenét was the gift no one was allowed to name. Or simply a demonic game where every person is a pawn. Anyone could be guilty and no one could ever be proven guilty. And you know what the most terrifying part is? Not that no one was arrested, but that anyone could have done it. Or that no one did, but JonBenét still died. And whoever killed her may have never left that house. The deeper you dig into this case, the less truth you find. Only more darkness. A bottomless maze. A house where, even if you turn on the lights, something in the corner still watches you, with cold, unblinking eyes. JonBenét's body has long since been laid to rest. The Ramsey family moved away from Boulder, withdrew from the media, and faded into silence. The mansion at 755 15th Street still stands, though it has changed owners many times. Some residents moved out after just a few weeks, unable to stay. Rumors say that at night, the basement lights flicker on by themselves. That faint giggles echo from behind the sealed door, like a child still playing in the dark. What remains? In 2008, police announced that DNA found on JonBenét's clothing did not match any family member. The Ramseys were officially cleared as suspects, but no one was arrested. No charges filed, no confession ever made. A little girl was brutally murdered inside her own home, surrounded by dozens of clues, yet none of them led anywhere. Every question gave birth to more questions. Every suspect, a maze within a maze. Detectives retired. Files were boxed and sealed. The case archived under a code name, unnamed, unspoken, untouched, a loop with no exit. Those who once investigated this case have said they often dreamed of the basement. No light, no way out, and always a voice whispering, sometimes near, sometimes far. She's still there, but no one wants to look at her. No matter where you stand, whether you suspect the family or believe in an intruder, you always end up in the same place. A wooden door no one opened, a ransom letter far too long, and a faint, uneasy feeling that the truth was buried from the very beginning. And maybe that was the real plan all along. Something is still watching. Since 1996, there have been hundreds of documentaries, podcasts, news specials, and investigations into the case of JonBenét Ramsey. But no one has dared to say they know the truth, because this case doesn't want to be solved. It wants to be mentioned, discussed, drawn out like a fever, a twisted game that never ends. Some believe JonBenét's killer still walks among us. Others think the house itself swallowed the truth. But there are also those who, halfway through reading the case files, simply ... stopped and never returned. They said something, were staring back at them from the page. And if tonight you wake in the dark with the feeling that someone is watching you, maybe you've looked too long, The case may be closed, but the questions never were. And those eyes, they're still, watching us from a place far too deep, a place no human was ever meant to enter.